Nuestra Señora de Guadalupe, more commonly known as La Virgen de Guadalupe, is very special indeed in Mexican culture. So special, in fact, that Mexicans didn't just take any Maria, but they possibly created their own Virgen Maria in order to bridge the gap from indigenous religions to the new Catholic religion brought by the Spanish. The story of La Virgen de Guadalupe dates back to December 1531, when, according to tradition, La Virgen appeared to a Chichimeca peasant named Juan Diego Cuauhtémoc on the sacred Cerro del Tepeyac near present-day Mexico City. La Virgen de Guadalupe is considered the patroness of Mexico, and her feast day on December 12th is widely celebrated across Mexico and by Mexican communities around the world. She's revered not only as a religious figure, but also as a symbol of Mestizo identity. While the story of La Virgen de Guadalupe is widely known, there are elements before and after her apparition to Juan Diego that are not as widely circulated. For example, many people forget the beta version of La Virgen de Guadalupe in Spain, or the fact that the cult of Tonantzin, a Mesoamerican goddess, already existed at Tepeyac. Moreover, the symbolism found on the image itself, which is now displayed at the Basilica, is a mestizaje of both indigenous and European elements with symbols that convey her divinity to both groups. So today, we're diving into the roots, story, and symbols of La Virgen de Guadalupe. Join us as we unravel the mystique surrounding the miraculous apparition of La Virgen de Guadalupe on the hill of Tepeyac. Like all things mestizo, La Virgen de Guadalupe has both indigenous and European roots. La Virgen de Guadalupe's name actually comes from a 14th century monastery in Extremadura, Spain. The word Guadalupe is a combination of the Arabic word wadi, meaning valley, and the Latin word lupum, meaning wolf, which combined translates as Valley of the Wolves. According to the legend, the Virgin Mary appeared to the aptly named herder, Gil Cordero, as he was looking for a lost animal in the mountains. Mary instructed him to dig at the location of her apparition, where he unearthed a statue of the Madonna thought to be lost. The statue itself was said to have been carved by Luke the Evangelist, and in the year 1712, when Seville was taken by the Moors, the statue was buried in the hills in order to keep it safe from the scary Moors. Notably, even this first incarnation of La Virgen de Guadalupe was dark-skinned. Even more notable was that many Spanish conquistadores, including Hernán Cortés, would have ties back to Extremadura. Prior to the arrival of the Spanish, El Cerro del Tepeyac was a place of worship for the indigenous mother goddess Tonantzin, or Our Little Mother. In fact, Spanish clergy chronicled the worship of female goddesses at Tepeyac, including Cihuacuatl and Tonantzin. Notable in these chronicles is the Florentine Codex, written by 16th century Franciscan friar Bernardino de Sahagún. Sahagún wrote on indigenous people's pilgrimages to Tepeyac and the rain rituals, which included human sacrifice at the site. There was likely a petroglyph of Tonantzin at Tepeyac commissioned by the beloved philosopher and ruler Nezahualcóyotl. Unfortunately, the petroglyph would be lost, most likely destroyed by the monotheistic, except all those saints are cool, Spanish. After the fall of the Mexica Empire, Franciscan friars quickly went about syncretizing existing indigenous beliefs with Christianity. There are even accounts of the Madonna's miraculous appearance and intervention prior to the Juan Diego story. Spaniard Francisco Cervantes de Salazar wrote that during Cortés's first trip to Tenochtitlan, the natives complained about the lack of rain, and, in response, Cortés organized a procession and a mass to call upon the Virgin Mary for help, whereupon heavy rains fell. Another Salazar story says that in June 1520, after the massacre at the Templo Mayor, the Mexica rebelled against the Spanish and imprisoned several Spaniards. In a letter to Cortés, the imprisoned Spaniards described the rebellion and how a mysterious woman on a white horse threw dirt in the eyes of the natives. She may have been the conquistadora Maria de Estrada, but many Spaniards believed it was an apparition of Saint Mary herself. However, the main apparition of La Virgen Maria that we all know of today happened after the fall of the Mexica Empire. According to Catholic tradition, La Virgen Maria appeared to the indigenous Juan Diego, who himself was a recent Christian convert. She asked him to build a church at the site. However, when Juan Diego delivered the message to church officials, including Archbishop Juan de Zumarraga, they didn't exactly believe him. So Maria instructed Juan Diego to gather roses from Tepeyac and present them to the Archbishop. And when Juan Diego unfolded his ayate, an image of La Virgen miraculously appeared on the maguey fabric. A church was built to mark the site of the apparitions, and La Virgen de Guadalupe's image quickly became a powerful symbol of faith and mestizaje throughout the budding nation. Notably, there are some key symbols on the image itself conveying her divinity to the growing Mestizo population at the time. First, La Virgen de Guadalupe is depicted standing on a crescent moon. A light emanates from behind her, and she's adorned in a mantle covered in stars. This imagery is not only associated with the woman described in the Bible's Book of Revelation of a celestial queen with the moon at her feet, but the moon, sun rays, and the stars also allude to Tenochtitlan, which itself was considered the center of the cosmos. Moreover, the stars on her mantle are also said to represent the constellations visible in the sky during the apparition. Her blue-green mantle was traditionally associated with divinity in Aztec or Mexica culture, and the way her dark hair is loose and parted suggests she was an unmarried woman or a virgin in Nahuatl culture. Even her face suggests the mestizaje of two cultures, as it is neither indigenous nor Spanish, but mestiza. Her hands, clasped in prayer, convey a sense of humility, reverence, and devotion. But in indigenous culture, her hands also convey that she comes bearing a gift. The dark band around her waist is also said to represent an indigenous pregnancy sash, symbolizing the birth of Christ. Finally, the cross worn around her neck can be interpreted as a symbol of Christ himself, but it can also call back to the four cardinal directions which are significant in indigenous cultures. La Virgen de Guadalupe's image is laden with religious symbology, but most importantly, she embodies a message of unity and cultural synthesis, and the blending of indigenous and European symbols is a testament to her inclusive nature. Shortly after the apparition, various documents, like the Codex Escalada and Nican Mopoa, describe the events at Tepeyac. However, there are no known written accounts of the apparition by Archbishop Zumarraga. The canonical version of the Juan Diego story highlights Zumarraga's key role in it. Yet, despite being a prolific writer, none of Zumarraga's existing writings confirm the indigenous narrative of the apparitions. Instead, written records of the time indicate that there was a significant divide among Catholic clergy regarding the orthodoxy of the native beliefs surrounding La Virgen de Guadalupe. According to Friar Sagún, Franciscan monks wanted to substitute the worship of Tonantzin with that of Tonantzin Santa Maria at Tepeyac. Sagún wrote, quote, "It appears to be a satanic invention to cloak idolatry under the confusion of this name, Tonantzin, and they now come to visit from very far away as before, which is also suspicious, because everywhere there are many churches of Our Lady, and they do not go to them. They come from distant lands to this Tonantzin as in olden times." End quote. To many Catholic clergy, then, La Virgen de Guadalupe had become the subject of idolatrous worship, and what the natives had done was simply insert the cult of Tonantzin Santa Maria into Catholicism, which is understandable. After having their religious system and culture so suddenly destroyed, indigenous people likely wanted to have a say in this new religion that was so suddenly thrust upon them, to put it nicely. And while the Catholic Church may have had its misgivings on this new cult of La Virgen de Guadalupe at Tepeyac, the people themselves, well, they fully embraced her. La Virgen de Guadalupe serves as a powerful symbol that transcends religious boundaries as she embodies a message of unity and hope. The blending of indigenous and European symbols in her image can either be interpreted as a testament to her inclusive nature, or as the syncretism that occurred once the Spanish arrived to the New World, or both. I personally like the idea that indigenous people were able to have some agency and insert their own beliefs and traditions into the new dominant Christian religion. Either way, today, the story of La Virgen de Guadalupe continues to be a central part of Mestizo culture and religious heritage. From her indigenous roots as Tonantzin to the European blending with La Virgen Maria, the miraculous tilma, now bearing her image, is a symbol of hope and Mestizo identity to millions across the world. Let us know what you think in the comments, or show your undying love and support for Tonantzin Santa Maria. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons to make that truly mysterious YouTube algorithm work.